Hey guys, Coach Bobby Jo Stahl here from San Diego Mesa College. This week, our topic of conversation is about setting and hitting strategies. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. All right, everybody, here we go. First, we're going to talk about setting strategies. Last week, we talked a lot about setting and hitting a technique, and now we talk about setting and hitting strategies. So sort of a strategy from a setter standpoint and strategies from a hitter's standpoint. So first, what is the importance of setting? And this can apply to not just setters, but also to out of system setting. The importance is really to put up a hittable ball, and how specific that is, the expectation changes from setters to non-setters. But it's really important if you're setting up that second contact or setting up a hitter to hit, that you're putting up a good ball in a good location. And the idea here is to give the hitter the best opportunity to get up and score on a swing. So obviously that's the importance of setting. The objective when setting, and we'll kind of shift gears now to more of a setter's mentality. The objective is to connect with your hitters, give a specific, consistent location, and also make sure that your hitters know what to expect from you. So it's about your consistency, but also connecting with the hitters and giving them what they need as consistently as possible. The role of the setter, this is a humongous topic of conversation. The role of the setter is one of the most important on the floor, if not the most important on the floor. This is someone who touches the ball more than anybody else indoor. You're contacting the ball almost every single time the ball crosses the plane of the net, touching the ball during almost every single rally. So your importance comes into sheer contacts. And also being sort of the quarterback of the team, making sure that you're setting your hitters up and setting your team up with opportunities to score, and being a leader out there who can really, really rally the troops, make really good decisions, and again, play such a humongous important role in the success of any team. I would say arguably the most important role on a volleyball team. So a lot of responsibility and a lot of importance in that setting role. So let's talk about some of the basic sets that we use. So based on where you live, or even just coach to coach, some of these sets might have different names, but this is sort of what we use mostly. We'll start on outside sets. So your first tempo set would kind of be a shoot that goes through the antenna. A hut, that's kind of more what we like to do, sort of a mid-level tempo. And then a high ball to the pin is a 4-ball. Those are all things that you guys should know. Middle sets, we have our quick sets, our 1s, our 3s, our back 1s, our slides, and then we also have a 2-ball in the middle. And then anything behind, again, slide, 5. One thing we don't have here is one that kind of drops inside. We call that a red, and again out here, kind of one that drops inside here, we call a rip. Or a 32. So those are a couple that are on this picture, but those are all things that we talk about, and our setters have different hand signals that they give to their hitters for each one of those sets, which are all things that we'll cover as a team when we get back on the court. Who hits those sets? Obviously anything in front is typically for outside, anything behind is typically for right side, anything coming from the middle is for a middle. But we do a lot of combo plays, a lot of switching around, a lot of kids that have multiple different positions and can hit different things. Personally, I would like anybody who's on the court, especially at a college level, to be able to hit any of these sets, have the footwork to go behind for a slide, and have the timing and spacing knowledge to hit stuff in the middle. So we don't want people that can only hit one type of ball or one type of set. We like players that are versatile. That gives us a lot of options in the offense. All right, who hits those sets? We already talked about that. We should, when should we set those sets? So this is kind of a lot to unpack here. There's setting decisions that are occurring all the time, and they're occurring for a lot of different reasons. The first thing to consider is your personnel. If you have a bunch of great hitting options, the setter's job is then just to make the smart set, rather that be against the flow of traffic or what they think is the best matchup on the other side. But sometimes you don't have all those hitting options, or maybe you have a couple of hitters struggling, in which case you want to just try to feed the ball to the hitter that is scoring. Ultimately, the job as a setter is to set balls to hitters that we think or they think is going to give us the best opportunity to score points. Getting kills is really one of the only few ways to actually score points other than aces and blocks. So again, if you're earning points versus just having the other team make errors, really you're just trying to figure out, how can I score as a setter? How can I score? And that decision making completely changes based on your personnel, based on how well your hitters are doing. And on a good, perfect, easy day, you're able to just make the smart set to anybody who's on the court and just set that person. So that stuff that changes team to team, year to year, game to game. All right, next, we'll talk about tempo. So we'll talk about tempo. Tempo is basically just like we talked about with passing strategy. That's how quickly we want the ball to get from the setter to the hitter. The flight of the ball is up and down, is a little bit more flat. And how fast is the ball getting, again, from your setter to your hitter. So the tempo we like to use is, we're not going to go the fastest tempo in the entire planet, but we also don't want to run a slow, high ball type of tempo either. So I like to call it mid-tempo, something that I think keeps our hitters in rhythm, still gives our hitters opportunities to be one-on-one, but nothing too extreme, nothing that is sort of inconsistent or unattainable. And again, this also can really depend based on your personnel. Do you have a setter that can actually set with consistency, with tempo? Do you have hitters that can hit with consistency and with tempo? And that sort of might vary, because ultimately you have to have the personnel to do what you want to do, and you don't always necessarily have that. What is considered good tempo for us? We just like our hitters to be able to be in rhythm. We like the location of the set to be important, and the pace in which it gets from the setters to the hitters, really important. That kind of keeps our hitters in rhythm and knowing what to expect from our setters. But just as a simple answer, we sort of like mid-tempo type of setting offense. And then if we have the opportunity to push that tempo because we have setters that can do it and hitters that can hit it, we'll obviously push that tempo and get as fast as we can. What is location? So location, this again, it depends on the type of set. So most of the sets that you looked at on that picture a few slides back, those were sort of location sets. So no matter where the set is setting from, the ball is going to a specific location. Location is how far from the antenna and how far off the net. And that again depends on the set you're trying to set. However, there are connection sets. That's kind of like your quicks in the middle, where the location might move with the pass. And so there are a few sets that are more following the ball in the setter, and there's others that no matter where the set is setting from, that they're going to a specific location. Flow, when we talk about flow, that is setting against the flow is ideal if you can have a pass towards the left side of the court and jack the ball back to the right side, or if the pass is way to the right and you can jack the ball to the outside, then we know that gives our hitters a much better opportunity to hit a one-on-one situation, as opposed to being obvious and having a solid block in front of them. What entails good decision making? We sort of already unpacked that a little bit in terms of who do you set and why. But again, that's all comes into play based on the situation, based on the personnel, and ultimately setting the right set to the right hitter at the right time to earn a point. So tough job for you setters, but again, one of the few ways we actually can score in volleyball, so super important. All right, managing expectations. So just sort of to piggyback on our passing and serving strategy, our expectations from our setters are going to vary. Good pass equals good set equals giving your hitter all options. So we do expect an incredibly consistent, in rhythm, in tempo, good location set every time that there's a good pass. If there's a bad pass, we anticipate that's a tougher set, and we want you then to put up just something a little bit more manageable, and maybe the hitter has some modified options, but that's, again, just sets up with the pass. And then we try to avoid setting errors at all costs. So these are unhittable balls or ball handling errors, things of that nature. And we believe with good focused training and being disciplined in your technique and your decision making is going to not eliminate that, but bring that kind of out of play as much as possible. Again, this is a little bit more for you setters. We expect that you keep a level head. You have to be a leader. You have to keep your emotions in check, and you have to be someone on the court that is a good voice, a positive voice, and a consistent presence of hard work, dedication, effort, and execution. Again, it's such an important position, and we don't normally have a ton of options. So we have to, as setters, keep a level head, and know that that applies all the time. We're heavily relying on you, and we need you to maintain the very highest level of focus, great attitude, great effort, and we believe that that'll help you be more consistent in your actual execution in the position as well. So it applies all the time, and how it applies depends greatly on... Sorry, dogs are being crazy right now. Just a sec. Sorry about that. Had a little puppy interruption there. But we'll go ahead and move on from this slide. Again, keeping a level head and being a great leader is always super important. All right, we're going to move on to hitting strategies. Maddie Bergdahl making an appearance here. All right, so what is the importance of hitting? The importance, again, sort of like we spoke about in the settings portion, it's one of the few ways you can actually earn points and score in volleyball. So the importance of it is humongous. It is our offense. It is the way we earn points, one of the few ways. And so with that being said, the objective of hitting is to find ways to score points, period. What are the types of hitting? So we have our straight ahead, power hitting, line, angle, full swing, full approach. We have tipping, and we have roll shotting, or kind of our off speed types of hitting. So power hitting, location hitting, and then kind of our off speed are sort of the different types of hitting. And again, there are definitely some that we prefer more than others in higher percentages of attempts, but there's many ways to effectively score points, and there are tools that we want to have as hitters so that we can score points in a number of different ways. How aggressive should you be? So this sort of differs from indoor to outdoor. Aggressive being how hard you hit the ball, kind of how powerful are you going for it. Indoor, we want the ratio of power, straight ahead, hammer time to off-speed or placement shots to kind of tilt in the favor of just being super, super aggressive and going hard for the ball. And then throwing in some off-speed and shoddy type of stuff. And also, again, knowing what works. If something off-speed is working, you can do it more often. If hitting hard straight away is not working, maybe throw in some different shots and different types of things. Again, this is why you have to have a lot of tools in your bag. But generally speaking, you're being aggressive probably 80-something% of the time, and then throwing in 15-20% of those off-speed, shoddy type of things with hitting. What is a hitting percentage? So this is your total attempts at hitting the ball, and it is your kills minus your errors divided by your attempts. And a good hitting percentage of course, is always in the positives. Negatives is always bad. That means you're hurting more than helping in that category. And for a middle, we expect you to have the highest percentage on the team, right side second highest, outside probably third highest. And so we'll get more specific into what our goals are in terms of hitting percentage. But generally speaking, it's like a batting average. It's how effective you are and how consistent you are as a hitter. Where do we hit? So when you're a hitter and you're going up to swing, we hope you all have intention on where you're putting the ball and why. So it depends. Sometimes you're just sort of basing your hitting decision on, well, first the set, what does the set allow you to hit? But say you're in a perfect setting situation, well, then you now have to decide, do I have a hole in my block? So that might be your first decision making is, what does my set allow? Then what does my block on the other side allow? And then from there, you might go with what shot is working and kind of stick with it. Or are you hitting at a specific person like the setter, trying to take them out, or hitting towards the weakest defender on the other side, say it's the middle that just served or something of that nature. No offense, middles. So where you hit depends on a lot of different things, but ultimately we want to have intention when we're up there hitting the ball. And again, knowing that it might be the empty spot, it might be the gap in the block, it might be the weakest player, it might be what's working. And then of course, having the ability to adjust if something's not working, or adjust if the opposing team starts picking up what you're doing. So why do we hit there? Again, that greatly varies on a number of factors, but as a hitter, you always have to have options, you always have to have the vision, and you always have to have the ability to adjust and keep the other team constantly guessing. And the more tools you have and the wider range you have as a hitter, the more effective you're going to be, no matter who you play against. How do we get the ball to those areas? So big emphasis in your transition footwork, making sure you get nice and wide off the net, and then always having a good approach, feet to the ball, good timing, good spacing between you, the net, and the ball. And then making sure that as long as you can sort of get the ball in your strike zone, we'll call it, that's hitting the ball here, not out here or across your body or too low, that all drives from disciplined transition, good patience and timing with your approach, and the ability to get your feet to a variety of sets. So. All right, discipline and focus, kind of like what we just talked about. Working on good transition is hugely important. What cues you're giving yourself, a lot of times it's about waiting, it's about feet to the ball, it's about making sure you have a good double arm lift and a good draw, kind of whatever you need to remind yourself of as a hitter to be effective. And the more you practice those good habits, the less you'll have to actually think about them, and you'll be able to just get up, hit the ball wherever you think is most effective to score. What are we looking at in terms of what we're hitting? Again, it's the block, it's what you think is open, and it's where you think is going to be the most effective to score. So we have to look at a lot of things. We have to look at the set, we have to look at the block, and we have to see what's on the other side of the net, or kind of know going into the swing what we think is going to be effective. Ultimately, you have to be decisive and confident. If you're in the middle of your approach and you're not completely sure what you're thinking of or what you think is going to work, or when you go up to hit the ball, you make some like last minute change of mind, is oftentimes when you're going to make your biggest errors. So you have to be decisive, you have to be confident with your decision making, and you got to go for it. Another big one, and this should deserve a slide all of its own, is bettering the ball. We have to, as hitters, have the ability to adjust to sets. Passes aren't perfect, sets aren't perfect. So you are making that third contact, and you have to be able to better the ball and make the best hitting decision that you can, no matter what the set is. Everybody loves a hitter that can hit a wide range of different types of balls. It's really not great for the team if you're the type of person that can only hit one kind of ball, one kind of direction. So think better range, more tools in your bag, and ways that you can score, and not making excuses. Your setter's always going to try to adjust for you and give you a better ball, but it's not always going to happen, and you as a hitter then have to kind of bail your hitter out maybe because of the bad pass, and find a way to score regardless. And lastly, you just got to go for it. Kind of back to the 2 bullet points up about being decisive and confident and just going for it. And having a next ball mentality, if you don't get a kill or if you do get blocked, going harder, smarter, and continuing again to adjust and find ways to score. So that is it for our setting and hitting strategies. Our setters are so important. And then of course, you have to have people that can put the ball away. We started sort of talking at the beginning about passing. That will always be the most important thing, is our first contact. Setting, again, probably passing being the most important skill, setting being the most important position, and then ultimately having big, physical, smart hitters who can get up and terminate, again, with a good hitting percentage and a lot of effectiveness, is sort of ideal for us. So that is it for the setting and hitting strategies presentation. You will be taking a quiz to piggyback on the information that was shared in this video. If you have any questions, as always, you know how to find me. Good to see you guys, and we'll talk soon.